Admiral Jake Morrison walked into the big meeting room. His blue uniform was clean and pressed. His face looked tired but determined. He had been awake for 20 hours straight, reading reports about the latest attack on human colonies. The Galactic Council meeting room was huge. Dozens of alien species sat in their special chairs, talking in their own languages through translation devices. Some looked like giant insects. Others were tall and thin with blue skin. A few had tentacles instead of arms. They all turned to look at Jake as he entered. Jake had been doing this job for 5 years now. 5 long years of asking these aliens to help stop the attacks on human settlements. 5 years of getting nowhere. His hair had gone completely gray during that time. His wife Lucy back on Earth barely recognized him in their video calls anymore. The attacks were getting worse. Last week, the Zephyrian Collective had hit 3 human farming colonies in one day. Families with children. Old people who just wanted to grow food and live in peace. The humans had followed all the galactic laws. They had permits for their colonies. They paid their taxes to the galactic government. But none of that mattered to the Zephyrians. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Parker stood next to Jake. She was young, maybe 30 years old, with short brown hair and worried eyes. In her hands, she held a data tablet that contained humanity's final message to the galaxy. Her fingers shook slightly as she gripped it. "The meeting will come to order," announced Chairman Voltek. He was a Voltharian, one of the older species in the galaxy. His blue skin was wrinkled with age, and his voice sounded tired. "The human delegation has requested emergency session time." Jake stepped forward. Around him, the alien delegates whispered to each other. Most of them thought humans were weak. They saw Earth as a small, young planet with primitive technology. They were wrong, but Jake had spent years letting them think that. "Honored delegates," Jake began, his voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. "For 3 years, the human colonies have been under attack. We have lost over 10,000 civilians. We have followed every law. We have filed every proper complaint. We have asked for help countless times." The Zephyrian representative stood up. His name was Kazd H, and he looked like a giant praying mantis made of metal. His voice buzzed when he talked. "The humans complain too much. Your colonies are in disputed space. If you cannot defend them, perhaps you should not be there." Jake felt his jaw tighten. He had heard this same argument dozens of times. Those colonies were approved by this very council. The space was not disputed when we settled there. The attacks began only after we discovered valuable minerals on those worlds. Minerals that rightfully belong to the stronger species. Kazth clicked his mandibles together, and what humans had learned was Zephyrian laughter. "Your kind is too soft for this galaxy. Too weak." Other delegates murmured agreement. The Dracorian Empire representative, a massive lizard creature named Scar, nodded his huge head. "The galaxy belongs to the strong. Humans have had their chance to prove themselves. They have failed." Jake looked around the room. These beings had no idea what humans were really capable of. For 50 years, since first contact, humanity had played by their rules, had pretended to be just another weak species trying to find their place in the galaxy, had hidden their true nature behind smiles and diplomatic words. Dr. Elena Vasquez sat in the human delegation area. She was the smartest person Jake knew, an expert on alien psychology and human history. She had warned him this day would come. "They see our cooperation as weakness," she had told him months ago. "They think because we follow rules, we cannot break them. They think because we choose peace, we cannot choose war." Lisa stepped forward with the data tablet. Her voice was steady now, though Jake could see the tension in her shoulders. "Council members, the human government has authorized us to deliver one final message. We have tried to be the species you wanted us to be. We have learned your customs. We have followed your laws. We have shown restraint when attacked. The room grew. Quieter. Something in Lisa's tone made even the most arrogant delegates pay attention. But you have mistaken our choice for weakness, Lisa continued. You have mistaken our patience for inability. You have mistaken our desire for peace as fear of war. Chairman Voltec leaned forward. What exactly are you saying, human? Jake took the tablet from Lisa. On it was a video message from President Catherine Wells, recorded just 6 hours ago in the White House Situation Room. Jake activated the holographic display so everyone could see President. Wells appeared as a life-sized image in the center of the room. She was a small woman with steel gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. Behind her stood General Frank Harrison, the head of Earth's military forces, and Dr. Robert Kim, the smartest scientist on Earth. Members of the Galactic Council, President Wells began, I am speaking to you as the elected representative of 12 billion human beings. For 50 years, we have tried to be good neighbors in this galaxy. We have shared our knowledge. We have opened our planets to trade. We have asked for nothing but the right to exist in peace. The alien delegates watched in silence. Most had never seen Earth's president speak directly to them before. That peace has been broken, Wells continued. Our children are dying. Our families are being destroyed. Our colonies are burning. And this council, which promised to protect all member species, has done nothing. Scare started to stand, but Chairman Voltec waved him back down. Therefore, President Wells said, I am authorizing Admiral Morrison to deliver humanity's final diplomatic communication. We are done asking for help. We are done begging for justice. We are done pretending that words matter more than actions. The hologram flickered off. Jake looked around the room at faces that were suddenly much more serious. The message is simple, Jake said, his voice cutting through the silence like a knife. Stop attacking our people, or we stop pretending to be civilized. The words hung in the air like a threat. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. What does that mean? Asked the Andromedian representative, a peaceful species that had always been friendly to humans. Jake smiled, but it was not a pleasant smile. It means that for 50 years, humanity has been playing a role. We have been the grateful junior species, happy to follow galactic law and custom. We have been the peaceful explorers, more interested in science than warfare. We have been the naive newcomers, learning from our wise galactic neighbors. He paused, letting his words sink in. But that was a choice, Jake continued. A deliberate choice. We chose to be those things because we hoped they would work. We chose cooperation because we preferred it to the alternative. Lisa activated another display, this one showing recent footage from the attack on Kepler 442b. Families running through burning streets. Children crying over parents who would never wake up. Hospitals destroyed. Schools reduced to rubble. This is what cooperation has gotten us, Jake said quietly. This is what following your laws has achieved. This is what being civilized has earned us. The room was completely silent now. Even the usually chattering Delcarian observers had stopped. Their constant whispers. So we are done, Jake announced. Done being what you wanted us to be. Done pretending that we are weak. Done hiding what we really are. He looked directly at Kazd H. You want to see strength? You want to see what humans are truly capable of when we stop trying to be civilized? Jake's smile was cold and sharp. Keep attacking our colonies. Find out. The silence that followed was absolute. In that moment, every being in that room realized that something fundamental had just changed. The small, peaceful species from the edge of the galaxy had just issued an ultimatum to the entire galactic community. And somehow, despite their superior numbers and advanced technology, None of them felt safe anymore. 3 days passed after Admiral Lorison's warning to the Galactic Council. 3 days of silence from the alien governments. 3 days of hope that maybe, just maybe, they would listen to reason. Then the attack came. Captain Danny Rodriguez was eating breakfast in his quarters when the alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed throughout the ship. His coffee mug crashed to the floor as he jumped up and ran to the bridge of the Earth Defense Ship Retribution. "Report!" Danny shouted as he reached his command chair. Zephyrian fleet attacking Proxima. Centauri Research Station, called out Lieutenant Amy Foster from her weapons station. 47 ships, including 3 dreadnoughts. They're jamming all communications from the station. Danny felt his heart sink. The research station had 300 people on it. Scientists, engineers, families. Good people who just wanted to study the stars and find new ways to help humanity grow. "How long until we reach them?" Danny asked. 18 minutes at maximum speed, replied the navigation officer. Danny knew that was too long. The Zephyrians could destroy the entire station in 5 minutes if they wanted to. But maybe they were taking their time, trying to capture prisoners or steal research data. "Sir," said Communications Officer Betty Clark, "we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command." Danny nodded. "Put it through." The message was short and came directly from General Frank Harrison himself. The words were simple, but they changed everything. Diplomatic solutions exhausted. Authorization granted for Operation Broken Chain. Show them what humanity really is. Danny stared at the message for a long moment. Operation Broken Chain, he had trained for this day, but hoped it would never come. Every human military officer knew about the operation, but most thought it was just a scary story to make them feel better about their small fleet. "Communications. Get me Lieutenant Commander Parker on Luna Base," Danny ordered. Lisa Parker's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired but determined. "Captain Rodriguez, I assume you received the authorization?" "Confirmed." "Operation Broken Chain is active. All restrictions are lifted?" "All restrictions are lifted," Lisa confirmed. "You are authorized to use any and all capabilities necessary to protect human lives and interests." "The pretending is over, Captain." Danny felt a chill run down his spine. "Understood. We'll handle the Zephyrian fleet." "Captain," Lisa said her voice softer now, "remember what Dr. Vasquez taught us in training. They don't understand what they're dealing with. They think they know humans, but they've only seen what we wanted them to see." The communication ended. Then he turned to face his crew. These were good people, all of them. Major Kelly Bennett, his tactical officer, had been with him for 8 years. Chief Engineer Paul Stevens had designed half the systems on the ship. Lieutenant Foster had never missed a target in her entire career. "Crew," Danny announced over the ship's intercom, "this is Captain Rodriguez. As of this moment, we are no longer operating under diplomatic restrictions. The Zephyrians have attacked our people 1 too many times. Today, we show them what happens when humans stop being polite." Danny could hear cheers from throughout the ship. His crew had been frustrated for years, watching alien fleets attack human colonies, while they were ordered to use only defensive weapons and non-lethal force. "Chief Stevens, bring all systems online," Danny ordered. "And I mean all systems." "Paul." Stevens smiled for the first time in months. "Aye, Captain." Initiating full combat configuration. Throughout the ship, systems that had been disguised as scientific equipment began to transform. Weapons arrays that had been hidden behind false panels extended from the hull. Shielding generators that had been powered down to minimum levels roared to life. The ship's true engines, powerful enough to outrun anything in the known galaxy, began their startup sequence. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Foster, "all stealth systems are coming online." The Zephyrians won't be able to see us in about 2 minutes. Excellent. How are we looking on weapons? All plasma cannons are charged and ready. The new particle beam array is at full power. And sir, Foster paused, the kinetic bombardment system is ready for deployment. Danny nodded grimly. The kinetic bombardment system was something the aliens had never seen before. It fired solid metal projectiles at nearly the speed of light. No energy shields could stop them. No armor could resist them. They were simple, devastating, and terrifying. Tactical. Give me a full scan of the enemy fleet, Danny ordered. Major Bennett worked at her console for a moment. 47 ships as reported. 3 dreadnoughts, 12 cruisers, and 32 smaller vessels. They're arranged in a standard attack formation around the research station. Any sign of survivors at the station? I'm reading life signs, but they're faint. The Zephyrians have landed troops on the station. They're taking prisoners. Danny felt anger building in his chest. Taking prisoners was a war crime under galactic law. But then again, the Zephyrians had been committing war crimes against humanity for 3 years with no consequences. Time to intercept? 14 minutes, sir. Good. That gives us time to do this right. Danny turned to his communications officer. Betty, open a channel to the Zephyrian fleet. All frequencies. Channel open, sir. Danny's voice was calm and steady as he spoke. Zephyrian collective vessels. This is Captain Rodriguez of the Earth defense ship Retribution. You have exactly 10 minutes to withdraw from human space and release any prisoners you have taken. This is not a negotiation. This is a notification. The response came quickly. The Zephyrian commander's voice was full of clicking sounds and buzzing noises. Human vessel, you are outnumbered 47 to 1. Your pathetic ship cannot stand against the might of the collective. Surrender now, and we will grant you a quick death. Danny looked around his bridge. His crew was ready. They had trained for this moment their entire careers. They knew what humanity was truly capable of when the gloves came off. Zephyrian Commander, Danny replied, you have studied our ships, but you have studied the wrong ships. You have analyzed our weapons, but you have analyzed the wrong weapons. You think you know what humans are capable of, but you have only seen what we wanted you to see. Your threats are empty, human. We have the strongest fleet in this sector. Danny smiled coldly. Chief Stevens, engage stealth mode. All hands, prepare for combat. The Retribution disappeared from Zephyrian sensors as its cloaking systems activated. The enemy fleet continued their attack on the research station, unaware that death was approaching them at incredible speed. Sir, reported Lieutenant Foster, we're in weapons range. The Zephyrians are still firing on the station. Then we're out of time for warnings, Danny said. Target the lead dreadnought. Kinetic bombardment, full power. Target locked, sir. Fire. The kinetic projectile left the Retribution's main gun at 90% of light speed. It was invisible to sensors, too fast to dodge, and carried enough energy to destroy a small moon. The Zephyrian dreadnought never knew what hit it, the massive ship simply exploded in a brilliant flash of light. One moment it was there, firing on the research station. The next moment it was expanding debris and superheated gas. The Zephyrian fleet stopped firing. Confused voices filled the communication channels as they tried to understand what had happened. Sir, reported Major Bennett, the enemy fleet is trying to scan for us. They can't find us. Good. Target the second dreadnought. Same weapon. Locked. And ready, sir. Fire. Another flash of light. Another massive ship reduced to scrap metal and memories. The Zephyrian fleet began to panic. Ships scattered in all directions, trying to escape an enemy they couldn't see or understand. Zephyrian Commander, Danny broadcast on all frequencies. That was us being gentle. You have 5 minutes to release the prisoners and withdraw. After that, We stopped playing games. Where are you? The Zephyrian commander screamed. Show yourself and fight with honor. Danny laughed. Honor? You want to talk about honor? You've been murdering civilians for 3 years. You've broken every law of war in the Galactic Charter. You've tortured prisoners and bombed hospitals. He paused, letting his words sink in. You wanted to see what humans are really like when we stop pretending to be civilized. This is us. This is what we've been hiding from you. This is what we're capable when you push us too far. The third dreadnought exploded without warning. The Zephyrian fleet was now in full retreat, but they weren't fast enough. Danny's ship appeared among them like a ghost, firing precise shots that disabled engines and destroyed weapon systems. This is impossible, the Zephyrian commander whispered. Your technology is primitive. Your ships are weak. Our technology is primitive? Danny asked. Major Bennett, show them our real speed. The Retribution suddenly appeared directly in front of the fleeing Zephyrian flagship. It was impossible. No ship in the galaxy could move that fast or maneuver that precisely. Commander, Danny said softly, you have been fighting the wrong enemy. For 50 years, we have been pretending to be what you expected us to be. Weak, peaceful, helpless, but that was never who we really were. 20 more Zephyrian ships exploded in rapid succession. A human ship moved through their formation, like a shark through a school of fish, untouchable and unstoppable. We are the species that survived ice ages and global wars. We are the species that split the atom and traveled to the stars. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. In less than 1 day, every major government knew what had happened at Proxima Centauri. The most feared military force in the sector had been completely destroyed by a single human ship that everyone thought was just a research vessel. Ambassador Carol Martinez sat in her office on the diplomatic station, watching news reports from across the galaxy. Her assistant, Tony Walker, brought her cup after cup of coffee as she tried to process what this meant for humanity's future. The Galactic Council has called an emergency session, Tony said, setting down another steaming mug. They want to meet in 6 hours. Carol nodded, but didn't look away from the screens. Every channel was showing the same footage. Debris floating where the Zephyrian dreadnoughts used to be. Panicked communications from the surviving enemy ships. And through it all, the calm voice of Captain Rodriguez explaining exactly what humanity was capable of when pushed too far. Have we heard from Earth? Carol asked. President Wells is on her way here personally. She'll arrive in 4 hours with a full diplomatic team. Carol finally looked up from the screens. And the military? Tony's expression grew serious. General, Harrison is sending additional ships to every human colony. But Carol, these aren't the ships we've been showing the galaxy for 50 years. These are the real ones. Carol felt a chill run through her. She had known this day might come, but she had hoped it wouldn't. For decades, humanity had worked so hard to fit in with galactic society. They had followed every rule, respected every custom, and tried to be the peaceful junior species that everyone expected them to be. The emergency council session was unlike anything Carol had ever seen. The huge meeting room was packed with delegates from every major species. The usual chatter and conversation was replaced by nervous whispers and worried glances. Even the most arrogant species looked shaken. Chairman Voltec called the meeting to order with a voice that trembled slightly. We are here to discuss the incident at Proxima Centauri and its implications for galactic security. The Zephyrian delegate was not Cast H this time. He had been replaced by a much older, more careful individual named Vectar. When he spoke, his voice was quiet and respectful. The collective formally apologizes for our actions, Vectar said. We were wrong to attack the human research station. We were wrong to underestimate human capabilities. We request immediate peace negotiations. A murmur ran through the council chamber. The Zephyrians were one of the most aggressive species in the galaxy. They had never apologized to anyone before. Carroll stood up slowly. The human delegation appreciates the collective's apology. However, we believe there has been a fundamental misunderstanding about human nature that needs to be addressed. She activated a holographic display that showed a map of human space. Red dots marked the locations of attacks over the past 3 years. There were hundreds of them. For 3 years, we have been asking this council for help. For 3 years, we have been told that our complaints were not important. For 3 years, we have watched our people die while following every law and custom that you demanded we respect. The room was completely silent. Even the usually noisy Delcarian observers were quiet. But yesterday's events have raised questions about human technology and capabilities, Carroll continued. Many of you are wondering how we could have weapons that your scientists never detected. Many of you are wondering how we could have ships that your military experts never analyzed correctly. Dr. Henry Walsh, humanity's chief military historian, stepped forward with another holographic display. This one showed Earth's solar system, but not as the galaxy had ever seen it before. For 50 years, Dr. Walsh began, humanity has been preparing for the possibility that diplomacy would fail. We hoped it wouldn't. We genuinely wanted peace. But we are not a naive species. The display zoomed in on the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. What the galaxy had always believed was natural rock formations was revealed to be something else entirely. Massive shipyards, construction facilities, mining operations that had been hidden for decades. The Ceres shipyard alone has been producing vessels for 30 years, Dr. Walsh explained. What you see as asteroids are actually our industrial centers. What you catalog as minor mining operations are actually our primary manufacturing facilities. The display shifted to show the dark side of Earth's moon. Hidden beneath the surface were weapons testing facilities, research laboratories, and launch platforms that could deploy a fleet anywhere in human space within hours. Luna Base is not just a scientific research station, Dr. Walsh continued. It is the command center for the largest military operation in galactic history. For 50 years, we have been building, testing, and preparing for exactly what happened yesterday. The alien delegates stared at the displays in shock. The peaceful research stations they had visited were revealed to be fortified positions. The mining colonies they had dismissed as economically insignificant were actually strategic military outposts. Commander Steve Cooper appeared via hologram, broadcasting from his ship in orbit around Proxima Centauri. His uniform was clean now, but his face still showed the strain of yesterday's battle. Council members, Cooper said, I need you to understand something important. Yesterday's engagement was not humanity at full strength. It was not us using our most advanced weapons. It was us testing whether the galaxy was ready to see what we are truly capable of. A delegate from the Andromedian Republic, a peaceful species that had always been friendly to humans, raised a tentacled arm. Commander Cooper, your ship destroyed 47 enemy vessels without taking any damage. How is that not full strength? Cooper's smile was grim, because I was alone. The Earth Defense Force has over 3,000 ships just like mine. Some are better armed, some are faster. Some have weapons that make yesterday's display look like a training exercise. The silence that followed was deafening. Carroll could see the calculations running behind alien eyes, the sudden realization that everything they thought they knew about humanity was wrong. But why? Asked the Volthrian trade representative. Why hide such capabilities? Why pretend to be weak when you are so strong? Carroll answered this question herself. Because we wanted to be part of your community. We wanted to be accepted as equals, not feared as conquerors. We wanted to prove that a powerful species could choose to be peaceful. She paused, looking around the room at faces that were suddenly much more attentive. We have watched powerful species in this galaxy for centuries. We have seen how they behave, how they dominate weaker civilizations, how they use their strength to take what they want instead of earning it through cooperation and trade. Dr. Elena Vasquez, who had been quiet until now, stood up to address the council. We studied your histories. We learned your languages. We understood your fears. We knew that if you saw us as we truly are, you would either try to destroy us or submit to us. We wanted neither. So we chose a third option, Carol continued. We chose to hide our strength and demonstrate our character. We chose to follow your laws, even when they disadvantaged us. We chose to respect your customs, even when they seemed strange to us. We chose to be the junior partner in every agreement, even when we had the power to demand better terms. The Dracorian representative, General Scare, spoke for the first time. His voice was much more respectful than it had been just days before. What you describe is unprecedented. No species has ever chosen to limit their own power for the benefit of others. No species has ever been humanity, Carol replied simply. We are not like other species you have encountered. Our history is not one of conquest and domination. It is one of cooperation and growth. We became the dominant species on our planet, not by destroying our competitors, but by learning to work together. She activated another display, this one, showing Earth's history. Wars that ended in lasting peace. Competitors who became allies. Enemies who became friends. This is what we tried to bring to the galaxy, Carol explained. The idea that strength and cooperation are not opposites. The idea that the strong can choose to protect the weak instead of exploiting them. The idea that peace is not the absence of power, but the choice to use power wisely. The economic implications were staggering. Human trade routes that had seemed vulnerable were actually the most secure in the galaxy. Human colonies that had appeared to be easy targets were revealed to be nearly impregnable fortresses disguised as farming communities. Dr. Robert Kim, humanity's leading expert on galactic economics, found himself fielding questions from trade representatives across the galaxy. We could have dominated every major trade route, he explained. We could have established monopolies on dozens of strategic resources. We could have charged premium prices for our technologies. But we didn't. Carol added, we chose to subsidize galactic peace instead. We chose to make trade profitable for everyone instead of just profitable for us. We chose to share our discoveries instead of hoarding them. The revelation that humanity had been deliberately restraining their economic expansion was perhaps more shocking than their military capabilities. They had been actively limiting their own growth to maintain galactic stability. Every human colony could have been a fortress, Dr. Kim continued. Every human trade ship could have been a warship. The galaxy's response to humanity's revelation was swift and chaotic. Within hours of the emergency council session, every major government was holding crisis meetings. Some species panicked. Others saw opportunity. A few began making very different kinds of plans. General Frank Harrison sat in his office deep beneath the Pentagon, watching intelligence reports flood in from across known space. His aide, Colonel Mary Johnson, brought him updates every few minutes. None of them were particularly surprising, but all of them were important. The Dracorian Empire has moved their third fleet to the border of human space, Colonel Johnson reported. But, sir, they're not in attack formation. It looks more like a defensive position. Harrison nodded. He had expected this. The Dracorians were warriors, but they were smart warriors. They understood that humanity had just revealed itself to be far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. What about the Andromedians? Harrison asked. They've requested an immediate diplomatic meeting. They want to strengthen trade agreements and establish a formal alliance. And the Zephyrians? Colonel Johnson's expression grew more serious. Complete. Military stand down. They've recalled all their fleets to home space and begun broadcasting apologies on all diplomatic channels. Harrison leaned back in his chair. The Zephyrians had learned their lesson the hard way. But he knew other species were still making calculations, still trying to figure out how to deal with this new reality. On the trade station orbiting Vega Prime, Ambassador Carol Martinez found herself busier than she had ever been in her life. Her communication system was flooded with requests from alien governments. Some wanted to apologize. Others wanted to negotiate. A few wanted to surrender. The hegemony of Kepler wants to discuss protection agreements, her assistant Tony Walker announced as he brought her the morning reports. The Centauri Federation is offering to pay tribute. The Tau Ceti Alliance wants to hire human military contractors. Carol shook her head. They still don't understand. We're not interested in becoming galactic overlords. But not everyone was responding with fear or submission. The Dracorian Empire, led by their military council, saw humanity's revelation as both a threat and an opportunity. General Scare paced in his command chamber, his massive clawed feet clicking against the metal floor. His intelligence officers had been working around the clock, trying to understand exactly what humanity was capable of. "Report," Scare growled to his chief intelligence officer. "Sir, our analysis suggests that human military technology is at least 50 years ahead of anything we possess. Their ships are faster, better armed, and completely undetectable when they choose to be." Scare stopped pacing. "Recommendations? We have 3 options, sir. We can attempt to form an alliance with humanity. We can attempt to steal their technology. Or we can attempt to unite the galaxy against them before they become too powerful to stop." Scar considered these options carefully. The Dracorian Empire had ruled through strength for over 1,000 years. They had never encountered a species that was both more powerful than them and seemingly uninterested in conquest. "What is your assessment of human intentions?" Scare asked. "Unknown, sir. Their behavior doesn't match any known pattern. They claim to want peace, but they have built the largest military force in galactic history. They claim to want cooperation, but they have been secretly preparing for war for 50 years. On Earth, President Catherine Wells was dealing with similar confusion from her own people. The revelation of humanity's true military capabilities had shocked not just the galaxy, but many humans as well. "Madam President," said Secretary of Defense James Morris during the morning briefing, "we're getting reports of panic in some civilian sectors. People are asking why we kept the secret from our own citizens." President Wells rubbed her tired eyes. She had been awake for 36 hours straight, managing the crisis. "Because we hoped we would never need to use it. Because we wanted our children to grow up believing that peace was the natural state of the universe." Dr. Elena Vasquez, attending the meeting via video link from the Galactic Diplomatic Station, added her perspective. "Madam President, the psychological impact on alien species has been enormous. Many of them are having to completely reconsider their understanding of human nature, good or bad." Wells asked. "Both. The peaceful species are relieved that someone strong enough to protect them actually wants to do so. The aggressive species are terrified that they can no longer bully weaker civilizations without consequences." Meanwhile, on Luna Base, Commander Lisa Parker was coordinating humanity's military response to the changing galactic situation. The revelation had forced them to abandon decades of careful secrecy, but it had also freed them to operate openly for the first time. "Status report on fleet movements," Lisa requested from her tactical officer. "All hidden bases are now operating at full capacity. The asteroid belt shipyards are working around the clock. We have defensive fleets moving to protect every human. Colony and trade route. Any hostile movements from alien forces? Some positioning by the Dracorians, but nothing overtly threatening. Most species seem to be waiting to see what we do next. Lisa understood their confusion. For 50 years, humanity had been the predictable junior partner in galactic affairs. Now suddenly, they were the most powerful force in known space. Nobody knew what that meant for the future. The first major test came from an unexpected source. The Rigel Consortium, a collection of merchant species that controlled much of the galaxy's trade, announced that they were implementing new security. Fees for all human cargo ships. The fees were obviously punitive, designed to test whether humanity would use their newfound power to protect their economic interests. It was a clever probe, because it forced humans to choose between accepting discrimination or revealing more of their capabilities. Captain Sandra Lee, commanding the cargo ship New Horizon, received the consortium's demands while docked at Rigel Station. The fees they wanted would make human trade completely unprofitable. "They want us to pay 10 times the normal docking fees," Sandra reported to Earth Command, "plus additional security deposits that no other species has to pay." The response from Earth was swift and clear. "Captain Lee, you are authorized to demonstrate that human trade ships are not as defenseless as the consortium believes." Sandra smiled grimly. Her ship looked like a simple cargo hauler, but like all human vessels, it had been built with hidden capabilities. "Understood, Command." Initiating cargo security protocols. What happened next shocked the Rigel Consortium and sent another wave of fear through the galaxy. The simple cargo ship's hull began to shift and reconfigure. Hidden weapon ports opened. Advanced shielding systems activated. Within minutes, the defenseless merchant vessel had transformed into something that could outgun most military cruisers. "Rigel. Station control," Sandra announced calmly. "This is the human cargo ship New Horizon. We decline your additional fees. We will pay the standard rates that apply to all species, and we will dock at the berth assigned to us. Negative human ship. You will comply with consortium regulations or be fired upon." Sandra's response was delivered in the same calm tone. "Rigel Station Control, please be advised that our cargo manifest includes defensive systems that are now active. Any attempt to fire upon this vessel will be considered an act of piracy and responded to accordingly." The station's security forces had never seen anything like Sandra's ship. Their sensors couldn't get accurate readings on its capabilities. Their targeting systems couldn't lock onto it properly, and their weapons seemed laughably inadequate compared to what they were facing. "Stand down, human vessel," came a new voice from station control. "The consortium hereby waives all additional fees for human ships." The news of the Rigel incident spread even faster than the Proxima Centauri battle had. Within hours, every government in the galaxy knew that even human cargo ships were more powerful than most military vessels. Trade routes that had been hazardous for decades suddenly became completely safe when human ships started using them. Pirate groups that had operated with impunity for years began avoiding any system where humans might be present. But the most significant response came from the Galactic Council itself. Chairman Voltec announced that humanity would be offered a permanent seat on the Security Council, with full voting rights on all military and peacekeeping operations. "We believe," Voltec announced during a public broadcast, "that humanity's unique combination of capability and restraint makes them ideally suited to help maintain galactic peace." The offer was both an honor and a trap. Accepting would give humanity's significant influence over galactic affairs, but it would also make them responsible for problems. They had spent 50 years trying to avoid. President Wells consulted with her advisors for hours before making her decision. The debate was intense, with valid arguments on both sides. "If we accept," argued Secretary Morris, "we become the galaxy's police force. Every conflict becomes our responsibility. Every aggressive species becomes our problem. If we refuse, countered Dr. Vasquez, we send the message that we're not interested in galactic stability. That could make other species more likely to test our resolve. In the end, Wells made the decision based on humanity's core values. We accept the position, but with conditions. 6 months had passed since the Proxima Centauri incident changed everything. The galaxy had settled into an uncomfortable new reality, but it was a peaceful reality. For the first time in centuries, major conflicts had simply stopped happening. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in his new office aboard Galactic Security Station Alpha, watching ships from dozens of species dock peacefully at the same facility. Zephyrian cargo vessels unloaded next to Dracorian military transports. Andromedian science ships shared docking space with former pirate crews who had decided that legitimate trade was safer than robbery. "Sir," said his aide, Lieutenant Commander Betty Clark, "the monthly security report is ready for your review." Jake accepted the data tablet and smiled as he read the numbers. Piracy was down 90% across all major trade routes. Border conflicts had dropped to almost zero. Even domestic disputes within species were being resolved more peacefully, as everyone seemed more interested in cooperation than confrontation. "Any major incidents this month?" Jake asked. 3 attempts by criminal organizations to restart protection. Rackets in the Outer Rim. All 3 groups disbanded when human patrol ships arrived in their systems. Jake nodded. The protection rackets had been a major problem for decades, with criminal groups demanding payment from honest merchants in exchange for not attacking them. But it was hard to run a protection racket when someone more powerful than you was actually protecting the people you wanted to threaten. On Earth, President Catherine Wells was preparing for her re-election campaign. The polls showed her with overwhelming support, not just from humans, but from polling conducted on dozens of alien worlds. She had become the most popular political leader in galactic history. "Madam President," said her Chief of Staff, David Kim, "the Andromedian Republic has formally nominated you for the Galactic Peace Prize." Wells laughed. "For threatening to destroy half the galaxy?" "For choosing not to," David replied seriously. "The nomination letter says that humanity's restraint in the face of provocation has inspired other species to reconsider their own approaches to conflict resolution." The change had indeed been remarkable. The Dracorian Empire, once the most aggressive military force in the galaxy, had begun focusing their energy on exploration and scientific research instead of conquest. General Scar himself had requested human advisors to help design nonviolent solutions to territorial disputes. "The Dracorians want to establish a joint research station," David continued. "They're offering to share their advances in faster-than-light communication if we share our defensive technologies." Wells considered this carefully. Sharing technology had always been risky, but the new galactic environment made cooperation more attractive than secrecy. Captain Danny Rodriguez was enjoying the strangest assignment of his military career. Instead of hunting down enemy fleets, he was escorting refugee ships and delivering humanitarian supplies to disaster zones. His ship, the Retribution, had become a symbol of hope rather than destruction. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Amy Foster from her station, "we are receiving a distress call from the Kepler system." "Natural disaster, not military action." "What kind of disaster?" Danny asked. "Volcanic eruption on Kepler 452c. The colony there needs emergency evacuation for about 50,000 civilians." Danny smiled. This was the kind of mission he preferred. "Set course for Kepler, maximum speed, and contact the Relief Coordination Center. Tell them we'll have those people safe within 6 hours." The Retribution's incredible speed, once used to outmaneuver enemy warships, was now being used to save lives. Its powerful engines could carry refugees to safety faster than any other ship in the galaxy. Its advanced sensors could locate survivors in conditions that would blind other rescue vessels. Dr. Elena Vasquez was conducting a study that she hoped would help explain the remarkable changes in galactic behavior. From her research station on Luna Base, she was analyzing psychological data from dozens of species. The fear response is fascinating, she explained to her research team during their weekly meeting. Most species aren't afraid of human weapons or ships. They're afraid of human intentions. What do you mean? Asked her assistant, Dr. Patricia Brown. They understand that we could conquer them easily, but they don't understand why we choose not to. That uncertainty makes them much more careful about their own behavior. They're afraid that if they do something too aggressive, we might change. Our mind's about being peaceful. The psychological impact had created a kind of galactic politeness that was unprecedented in recorded history. Species that had been enemies for centuries were suddenly finding diplomatic solutions to their problems, largely because nobody wanted to risk drawing human attention to their conflicts. Ambassador Carol Martinez had never been busier. Her office on the diplomatic station processed dozens of requests every day from species wanting human mediation for their disputes. The waiting list for her services was over 6 months long. The Centauri Federation and the Vega Alliance want us to mediate their mining rights dispute, reported her new assistant, Maria Santos. The Beta Orionis Collective is requesting human arbitration for their trade disagreement with the Sirius Commonwealth. Carol looked at the growing list of requests with a mixture of pride and exhaustion. Schedule them all, but make sure they understand that we're mediators, not judges. We help them find solutions, but they have to agree to those solutions themselves. The human approach to mediation was proving remarkably effective. Instead of imposing solutions, human diplomats helped the disputing parties find common ground. Instead of favoring one side over another, they focused on outcomes that benefited everyone involved. But the most significant change was happening in the darker corners of the galaxy. Criminal organizations that had operated for centuries were simply dissolving. Warlords were retiring. Pirate fleets were selling their ships and buying cargo haulers instead. Captain Steve Cooper, now commanding the Anti-Piracy Task Force, found himself with very little to do. It's almost boring, he complained to his crew during their monthly briefing. We haven't had a real pirate engagement in 3 months. What about the Nebula Raiders? Asked his tactical officer. They sent us a message last week asking if we needed any cargo hauled, Cooper replied with a grin. Apparently, they've decided that legitimate shipping is more profitable than robbery. The economic transformation was as dramatic as the military one. Trade routes that had been dangerous for decades were now completely safe. Merchant ships no longer needed expensive escorts or insurance against piracy. The cost of interstellar commerce had dropped dramatically, making everyone more prosperous. Commander Sandra Lee, whose confrontation with the Rigel Consortium had helped establish the new order, was now running the most successful shipping company in the galaxy. Her fleet of converted human cargo ships could guarantee safe delivery anywhere in known space. We're not just shipping goods anymore, Sandra explained to a gathering of trade representatives. We're shipping confidence. When people see a human ship in their system, they know that nothing bad is going to happen while we're there. The Zephyrian Collective had undergone perhaps the most dramatic transformation of all. Once the most feared military force in the sector, they had become the galaxy's most enthusiastic supporters of peaceful cooperation. Former Commander Kazith, the Zephyrian who had dismissed human warnings just months earlier, was now serving as an ambassador to human space. His first official act had been to establish a memorial for the human civilians killed in Zephyrian attacks. We were wrong about everything, Kazdach admitted during a public ceremony. We mistook human kindness for weakness. We mistook human patience for inability. We mistook human civilization for primitive behavior. He paused, looking at the memorial, wall covered with names of the dead. Now we understand that human civilization is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength so great that it can choose to be gentle. The memorial had become a pilgrimage site for species across the galaxy. Delegates came to remember not just the human dead, but the lesson their deaths had taught everyone. That true strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the choice to protect. President Wells attended the memorial's dedication ceremony via hologram. Her speech was brief but powerful. These people died because we waited too long to show the galaxy who we really are, she said, her voice carrying to every world in human space. They died because we believed that our peaceful intentions would be understood without demonstration of our peaceful capabilities. She looked directly at the camera, knowing her words would be broadcast across the galaxy. We will not make that mistake again. The galaxy now knows what humans are capable of when we stop pretending to be civilized. But more importantly, the galaxy now knows what humans choose to be when we are free to make that choice. The ceremony ended with a moment of silence for all the lives lost during the years of misunderstanding. But it was not a sad silence. It was a hopeful one, recognizing that those deaths had not been in vain if they led to a lasting peace. Admiral Morrison's final report to Earth was simple but profound. Mission accomplished. The galaxy has learned to distinguish between humanity's capacity for violence and our preference for peace. They have chosen to let us continue preferring peace.